Hi, hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Are you guys hearing me? If you are, welcome, welcome, welcome to another show of Q&A with Dr. Mercy. Um, so let me see, are you guys hearing me? If you can, type it in the comment section below. Happy Friday, everyone. I'm getting a like, so I know someone's hearing me. Happy Friday. Hi, this is Dr. Mercy Ajonwe with Q&A with Dr. Mercy. Hi, Rebecca Armstrong. Thank you so much. Welcome. Happy New Year. This is the first session or first show of the year. So happy New Year. I hope you guys enjoyed your holidays. I sure did. And I'm excited to come right back on. Happy Friday. Where's everyone tuning in from? If you are tuning in, thank you. And Adriana, let me know where you guys are tuning in from, what location, and we can do a shout out. Hi, Miss Sterling Buford. Hi, Mary Stone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you. You can hear me. Happy Friday to you, Mary. So awesome, awesome, awesome. Happy New Year's, Adriana. Thank you. Happy New Year's. Oh, Happy New Year's, Angela Cosby. You're showing from Richmond, Virginia. Happy New Year's. Okay. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Again, this is another session of Q&A with Dr. Mercy. And, we're going to talk about, just important medical topics that we have that is concerning us. And sometimes, majority of the times we talk about COVID. I wanted to do a little twist. I wanted to talk about what things that can help along with COVID and talk, you hear about supplements, you hear about vitamin C, you hear about zinc, you hear about vitamin D and its relations with COVID. Well, I wanted to kind of dive a little bit further and talk about vitamin D. Why do we need to care about vitamin D? It's been said that at least 70 to 80% of people are vitamin D deficient. So why is that? So we have one of our favorite guests that is here. He's currently at the backstage. It's Dr. David Ajibade. And let me bring him in. Hello, Dr. Ajibade. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Dr. Murphy?
How are
Happy
you
New
doing
Year.
this evening?
Doing great.
Happy New Year.
How are
Great.
you doing?
So, Dr. Ajibade, could you please introduce yourself? Some people may remember you from when we had our breast cancer talk, and I did say I'd bring you back to talk about vitamin D because you are, in my opinion, one of the vitamin D experts. So, but can you
Ah,
just introduce yourself and what else you do?
okay, sure. Thank you for having me on. If you're not hearing me, just let me know. So
Okay.
I'm the founder and director of the Brain and Body Foundation, which is based both in Nigeria and the US. And we do a lot of things.
Okay.
Primarily, our focus is on brain disorders, especially in children. That's our charity arm. We do a lot with autism and learning disabilities, brain damage like cerebral palsy, genetic conditions like Down syndrome, and we use nutrients, specific nutrients, to help to not to treat, but to strengthen, help the body repair itself, help the brain repair itself. And we've been very, very fortunate to have learned from some really smart people, and we work with them in addressing
Okay.
these conditions in Nigeria, especially. But also, we also do a lot with regards to education, and we also do a lot with regards to addressing these conditions in adults as well, like strokes, dementia, memory
Mhm.
problems, brain damage, and
Yes.
so on and so forth. So a lot of focus is on that, and then kind of like expands beyond that as well. But we can talk about that later.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. I say you're the vitamin D guru because out of all the the supplements out of that's the number one supplement that I hear you talk about over and over and over again. So the vitamin D is a, how should I say it? It is a unrecognized. I know it's now we're talking about vitamin D, but for several years it was really underrepresented in the medical world, just how important it is to the body. So if you could help us, just exactly, I mean, we know what vitamin D is, it's a vitamin, but why should we care? What does it do for us?
Right, right, absolutely, and you're right. It's just beginning to come to the forefront. But I've been studying and talking about it for over 10 years before now.
Mm,
First and foremost, vitamin D3, which is our main focus, is not
mhm.
really a vitamin, and they correct that us about that a lot. It's more like a hormone, and it's even
Okay.
more than a hormone. It's I mean, you can look at it at different levels. Most people think about vitamin D with regards to calcium. So
Yeah.
bones, bone strength, and bone health, and that's where it ends. And even doctors, when we talk about vitamin D, we're like, okay, you got to be careful. You don't want to take too much vitamin D because it's going to raise your calcium levels. That can affect your kidneys and cause kidney stones, and that's where it ends. But now we're finding out that it's way more than that. It actually is responsible for the operation and regulation of over 10% of all the genes in your body. That's like over
Mm,
2,000 genes. And the way it works, we're finding out it works right at the level of the RNA and the DNA. We're hearing a lot about mRNA because of COVID-19 now
yes.
and the vaccine. But it basically tells, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. It just basically tells your cells what kind of proteins to make. So it actually works right inside the nucleus and in the cells of most cells in the body, especially the cells of your immune system, the cells of your nervous system, which includes your brain, the cells of your gut, the cells of your cardiovascular system. So it is way, way, way more than just
Okay.
about bone health. It's a lot. It
Yes.
actually addresses a lot. Now, when it comes to COVID-19, it really, because COVID-19 is something that primarily thrives in the presence of a weak and a dysfunctional immune
Mhm.
system, vitamin D is especially important where COVID-19 is concerned. Did I just lose her? Oops. Can you hear me?
Okay, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, yeah. I can't
Can
see
you
you
hear
though.
me? Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. It seems like we're having a reception problem. So, sorry, audience. It seems like if there's a reception problem, I'm trying to work it. Okay, great. But I was hearing you throughout the whole thing. Now, you had mentioned D3. So there is different variations of vitamin D. Can you explain? We should be concerned with D3, but I've heard D2. What is the difference?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So D2 is from plants. D3 is basically from animals. From
Mhm,
they harvest a lot from sheep. D2 probably from some certain kinds of mushrooms.
mhm,
Doctors prescribe D2, and that is the medical grade of D. And you may think that because that's what doctors prescribe is the better one. From research, that is just not true. Vitamin D3 is the one that is more bioavailable, it is more natural to the body, and it also helps to raise
mhm,
the levels of vitamin D in your body more quickly and more sustainably. They also found out
mhm,
that D2 has greater risk of toxicity than D3. So when you prescribe people take large amounts of vitamin D, the people who really suffer from larger doses are those who take D2, but D3 seems to be a lot safer. As a matter of fact, Mayo Clinic, I was reading recently, say you can, that's when the toxicity levels of vitamin D3 as high as 60,000 international units a day when you take for several months. Now, I'm not suggesting that anybody take that amount, but I tell you what, the required amounts, the required daily amounts of, I think it's about 600 international units now, in my opinion, are ridiculously low,
The
especially for people. Oops, you can't hear me again?
oh, okay. Are we? uh, Go ahead. Seems like we're having some
Yeah,
set
hi.
problems. Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
that's I can hear
Yeah,
you.
for
Yeah.
some reason we're having reception. Yeah, we'll just have, you know, get go through. It's very frustrating, but we can be able to, um, go
Is
ahead.
is it
If we drop the line,
is it from my end?
yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Goodness gracious. Okay. I'm just thinking what I should go try it on my cell phone or something. Were they able to hear me though? Was the audience able to hear me?
Okay, can you hear? Okay, hopefully it's stopped. But okay,
Go ahead.
can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, you continue. Yes, please.
Okay, so I was just talking about the difference between vitamin D3 and vitamin D2, and I went on to say that, uh, in my
And over
opinion,
that hurdle.
what is being prescribed is far less. The required dietary amount is far less than what we really need,
Okay.
especially if you're a black person. And during the winter, still not good, right?
Okay. So what you're saying, yes. So maybe if I can recap, because now we'll try to do this. This is really interesting. D3 is the one that is more bioavailable in the body to use, correct? Is that the
Correct.
form that we see as a supplement in the stores and things of that nature?
Um,
Um,
you know what? I'm on my
you know
phone.
what? I'm on
Why
my
don't I
phone.
just
Why don't I?
all right, can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? Let me switch. Let me switch. We'll be right back. We'll be right back. Hold on. Let's go here. Now echoing. So let's remove this and add these. Sorry, guys. There is seems to be technical difficulties that we're trying to adjust to. So give it Ajibade,
Yes.
a fellow physician who
Hello, hello, hello.
Okay. Keep going, keep going. Okay, great. We're back. Well, sorry you guys, I don't know what's going on. It's just, I don't know, is it the weather? I don't know what it is, but we are gonna make this work, okay? So thank you so much for your patience, Dr. Ajibade. Sorry, I don't know what happened, but we're back. So you were talking about D2, D3. So in summary, D3 you said was more bioavailable in the system, correct?
Yes, and less likely to cause toxicity.
Okay.
D2
and so whenever we want to buy it in the store, it's the D3 form that we'd want to buy, correct?
Most definitely. Most definitely. Yes.
Yes.
And if I may say just a few things about it.
And we are okay. Good. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, just write it on the comment section. Sorry, usually we don't have this type of reception problem, but yeah, as we are just, as you, Dr. Ajibade, if you see me kind of getting out of the monitor, just continue just talking, and we'll just kind of try to make our way and try to finish this, sharing this important information. So, why do you think people are vitamin D deficient? Why is there a large amount of people, and what population is more vitamin D deficient?
That's a great question. Great question. And I got to tell you, straight answer is that the darker your skin is, the more likely you are to be vitamin D deficient. And people are shocked because they think it's the complete opposite. Because your dark skin, it means that you absorb heat more. And we know that darker colors absorb heat more. But that's where the mistake is. People think that it's about heat, but it's not about heat. It's about light, specifically ultraviolet B rays from the sun, not artificial light, but light from the sun. And if you come to think about it, it's the amount of so it's when you come to think about it, is the amount of exposure of your skin when your skin is exposed to sunlight. That's when your body makes vitamin D3 and makes it in the active form that is now usable by the immune cells, by the cardiovascular system, by your brain, and so on and so forth. If your skin isn't exposed to sun, it doesn't matter how much sun or how bright the sun is. If your skin isn't directly exposed, so in fact, you can be in a greenhouse, and all the only barrier between you and the sun is a thin pane of glass or a thin window. If your skin isn't directly being exposed to the sun, you are not getting it. And that's a problem because I see it in Nigeria, I see it in the US too. The people who cover up the most tend to be Black people. That's my experience. I'm not saying everybody should be indecent and immodest and be exposing themselves, but what I've just noticed, even about at the beach or in the parks or wherever it is in Nigeria, Black people tend to cover themselves up a lot more than white people do. So think about this. We need to expose ourselves more. In fact, the statistics say that, research says that for a white person to get a certain amount of vitamin D from the sun, a Black person would have to stay 4 to 6 times as long in sunlight to get that same amount of vitamin D. And guess what? In the winter, it's even worse because in some parts of the country, especially I believe the northern parts of the country, even though there's sun, the rays that help your body make vitamin D don't penetrate the atmosphere enough. So even during the winter, some people don't even make vitamin D at all. So a lot would depend on what you while during the summer and during the spring months, and fall and autumn months. So the truth is, when you say 78% of people are vitamin D deficient, a great percentage of that are actually the dark skinned, especially the black people.
Wow. And I read somewhere, when it comes to vitamin D, and maybe you touched on it a little bit. When it comes to vitamin D and the immune system, the reason why it's important is that the vitamin D activates our white blood cells. The subtypes of our white blood cells, like our macrophages and some of the B cells. These are cells that are used to fight the infections. And when and these activation of these white blood cells now go and help fight viral infections such as COVID. Have you heard something like that as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
Mhm.
even when you take vitamin D into your body, there are
Mhm.
certain organs like the liver and the kidney that have to convert the vitamin D into the active form that is used by your cells. The
Mhm.
We found out that the cells of the immune system can convert that vitamin D. So it doesn't have to go to the liver or
Mhm.
the kidneys. The cells of the immune system can
Mhm.
convert it into
Mhm.
the active form so they can use it. And yes, you're right. The immune system actually has vitamin D receptors. Most cells in
Mhm.
the immune system have active vitamin D receptors that helps to activate them and helps them coordinate their attack or their defense against invaders. And if I may just say this, one of the things that made COVID-19 so deadly and so dangerous is out. And I think you and I have talked about this.
Mhm.
It's COVID-19 tends to trigger, it tends to rev things up and makes the immune system
Mhm.
go haywire and makes the immune system, the cells of the immune system start attacking attacking the blood vessels, attacking the lungs, attacking the
Mhm.
brain. Why
Mhm.
people have
Mhm.
and all kinds of organ damage because of what
Mhm.
COVID-19 does. It dysregulates it. It just causes a lot of mayhem, a lot of pandemonium, so to speak, and it
Mhm.
does go crazy. That's what the COVID-19 they found out that COVID-19 does. But if your vitamin D levels are high enough, now it's not the vitamin D that is doing the work. It's what the
Yeah.
vitamin D does for immune cells. So if your
Yes.
vitamin D are high enough and your immune cells have enough vitamin D, they in
Yes.
turn become more capable of tamping down that over-exaggerated response from your immune cells. So
Mm.
it's to temper that reaction that we see in people who have very severe forms of COVID. So it prevents that
Okay.
from. So if your vitamin D levels are on the normal range, it's highly unlikely. I'm not saying it's
Yes.
impossible. It's highly unlikely that you have a severe form of COVID-19. As a matter of fact, where they've done research all over the world, whether in Indonesia,
Yes.
China, or Israel, wherever, they found that those who have the lowest amounts of vitamin D are those who have the more severe forms of COVID-19. And those who have high amounts of
Mm.
vitamin D have COVID-19. I'm not saying it's a
And
cure. I'm not
and now, mhm.
treatment. Go ahead.
Well, no. Continue. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're not saying it's a cure, but what?
But it just enables your body to fight off and to be less reactive to the virus, and so it helps
Yeah.
to helps to keep things calm and keep things under control. In fact,
Yeah.
when you take a vaccine, it even helps your vaccine work better. So having
Mm.
high level D helps your vaccine even work better. I mean, we hear a lot about breakthrough infections, about those who have been vaccinated and they have boosters times one, times two, and they still have moderate, sometimes even severe forms of COVID.
Mm.
I have not tested those people, but I'm willing to bet a large amount of money that many of them had very low vitamin D levels.
Vitamin D levels. Oh wow. And so, okay, we'll talk about how do we diagnose vitamin D deficiency. But let's pivot just a brief period of time. Someone, Jacqueline Levy, had asked, should we be taking vitamin C as well? Now, is this in pertaining to COVID? It probably is. So would you be, could you address that, Dr. Ajibade?
Well, I think everybody should be taking vitamin C every single day. And again, the recommended amounts, in my opinion, and this is not, I'm not replacing your medical professional, but in my opinion, and from what I've seen, working with all kinds of brain disorders and immune problems, is that I believe it's 100 milligrams a day that's recommended. That is way too low. Some recommendations are as high as 2 grams, some as high as 4 grams. But here's the thing: what you want to do is you don't want to take the tablets, because the tablets just give you one bolus dose and that's it. What you want is you want to take the powder, put it in a glass of water or a bottle of water, and you sip it over a period of time. That way, your body uses the amount that it needs at that point in time, and it doesn't waste the rest. If you take one tablet once a day, the body's going to take a little bit and get rid of the rest in your pee. So I always recommend that you take, you get the powder and you kind of like mix it in with whatever else you're taking, whether it's a drink or a shake, a smoothie, whatever. So I recommend like 2 grams a day. That's 2,000 milligrams.
Okay.
There's no danger there. There's a lot of, especially urologists say, oh, it's going to get kidney stones and all that, but nephrologists who know what they're talking about know that that's not so. There's a lot more involved in kidney stone formation than just high levels of vitamin C.
So what about vitamin D? How much should we be taking of vitamin D as well?
If you're a Black person, and I'm assuming we're speaking to a lot of Black people, if you're a Black person and you're over 40, my recommendation, again, this is my personal opinion and based on a lot of research on my practice, is that you should not be taking anything less than 5,000 international units during the summer, and during the winter, nothing less than 10,000 international units a day.
A day, wow. And that does not lead to toxicity, does it?
No, ma'am. In fact, there's a recent article from the Mayo Clinic saying that that toxicity happens when you take over 60,000 international units a day over an extended period of time. That's like 3 to 6 months. That's when you can start thinking about toxicity. But if you're dealing with 10,000, highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. Awesome. And does this pertain to those that are vitamin D deficient, or even if you're not vitamin D deficient, or if you don't know your vitamin D status, should you still be taking that amount?
And I'm glad you asked that question, Mercy, because it's good to test your vitamin D levels. But don't forget, I live primarily and work in an environment in which getting tested for vitamin D is highly, even in some of the big hospitals, is very uncommon. So we just have to go by the research that is already in the books and by our clinical experience. If you can take the tests, I would strongly advise you to do so, especially if you have access to it. Most in Nigeria, where most people don't have access to those tests, so we just go ahead and prescribe the 10,000 national units, knowing that it's highly unlikely that they will have any toxicity, and that it's going to. I like to put it this way: if you get COVID-19, would you rather be deficient in vitamin D or have an excess in vitamin D? Because yeah, go ahead.
I would rather have an excess of vitamin D, seeing how important vitamin D is in helping to fight the virus. Yes.
Absolutely, because some people, I treat COVID-19 long haulers as well, because of people who, and we know about a third of them, after they've had the initial infection, sometimes mild, sometimes moderate, sometimes severe, some people still have lingering, sometimes even severe problems, headaches, sleeplessness, pains. Even others have very, very bad neurological conditions. And that's sometimes, like I said, they may not even have had a severe illness in the first place, but they constantly are having these pains and these aches going on for months to years after the initial So yeah, I would rather have higher levels of vitamin D, excess of vitamin D, so that that doesn't happen, than be caught with my pants down, so to speak.
Yeah, that's true. So are you saying, and I don't know if there's a study yet, but are you saying that, maybe there may be some improvement with long COVID or long haulers, COVID long haulers syndrome, and perhaps maybe boosting up your vitamin D levels? Have we seen that? Or is this just maybe a case by case basis? It's worth a try
No,
to
I was talking about before you get before you get
Oh,
the
okay.
ramp up your vitamin D levels. I haven't really done. I doubt if for
Yeah,
giving them high levels of vitamin D is going to make much of a difference. You would need to
yeah.
have treatments to get them to bring them relief. But I'm just talking about before you.
Before
Uh,
you get it, okay, that it can help in preventing you get it. Okay, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, wow. Well, thank you so much. For coming with and talking to us about vitamin D. Another aspect of vitamin D, when we're talking about COVID, we can also talk about other medical conditions. I see that vitamin D is so important that it actually helps you prevent you from, getting other medical conditions such as autoimmune diseases. It has a role in cancer, underlying heart diseases. I mean, it's when I did my research, I found that there was a large amount of conditions that vitamin D plays a role in helping to prevent from occurring in your body. Is that correct, Dr. Ajibade?
Absolutely. I think this is the overlooked secret weapon that, especially for Black people like you and me, I
Hmm.
think it's whew, it's for such a cheap supplement.
Yeah,
It's highly unfortunate that our doctors who are practicing here are not shouting about it more than they should, because it's something that it can really help to have. I'm not saying it's. I want to be careful about using medical legal terms now, but
yeah.
think about this. What we know is that, and let's use cardiovascular disease as an example. And cardiovascular disease is related to COVID-19 a lot too. But what we
Mhm.
know is that Black people tend to start having atherosclerosis, inflammation of the blood vessels, at an earlier
Mhm.
age than what people do. They
Mhm.
also have strokes at an earlier age, from their 40s, than white people do. This is an example. We know about certain kinds of cancers as well. And they're looking at things like vitamin D, because Black people tend to be more deficient in vitamin D, and vitamin D is super important for the healthy blood vessels, the health of the heart and the health of blood vessels, including the inner lining of the blood
Mhm.
vessels. Vitamin D acts as an anti-inflammatory to help to clean up the inner lining of the blood vessels. If your vitamin D
Mhm.
levels are low,
Mhm.
your greater likelihood. I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen, but there's a greater likelihood that you're going to have inflammation, or you're going to start having inflammation earlier. So I say that parents, you need to start thinking about vitamin D as early as your late teens and early 20s, because that's you're just be falling further and further and further behind as the decades pass, which is why again you have strokes. Black people tend to have strokes twice at a higher rate, twice as high as white people do. So
Mhm.
it makes so much sense to just, it's so cheap. You can get a
Yes.
bottle, last you about 4 or 5 months on Amazon, and you
Yes.
get or 5,000 or 10,000 international units on a daily basis. So I would strongly recommend that.
Or you could go in the sun and put sunscreen on, but during, I guess, not the winter months, but during the summer months, expose your skin to go ahead.
You're not going to get much vitamin D during the winter months at all.
Yeah, it's during the summer months. Expose your skin as you're, taking your walk. Obviously, you have your sunscreen, and that's a high amount of vitamin D that you're able to get. They do have fortified foods that have vitamin D, like the orange juice and, the milk, but those are lower in amounts, correct? And it's just it's not enough for your daily requirements. But there are some foods that are now fortified with vitamin D because of the importance of vitamin D as well. And then you have like in certain meats as well that you can get your vitamin D. So it's really, really important to get your vitamin D. If at the end of the day you hear from us, it's consume vitamin D. It's really important for your health, correct?
Very, very, very true. Well said. Very
Yeah.
said. And we didn't talk about cancer. We know about multiple sclerosis. They
Yeah.
say if you grew up in the northern hemisphere and you are vitamin D deficient before the age of 20, I think it's like 5 times or 3 or 5 times more likely to come down with multiple sclerosis. If during your early years you grew up vitamin D deficient. So we're talking about a lot of different things.
Bone
And
metabolism, osteoporosis, osteopenia. That can having low vitamin D levels can contribute to you not properly metabolizing calcium into your bones, and later in life that can affect your bones, and that's another thing we didn't talk about. So I mean, we're just talking about it in relations to COVID in particular because that's where you hear it. Oh, take your vitamin D, but you're wondering why. But really, we should have been taking our vitamin D for a while now. And it's really important that if you don't have some form of supplement or some form of way of getting your vitamin D in, you should. I also saw a study that said that it's in the winter months where vitamin D levels are low, and they've seen and it correlate with how many people get flu. This was
yes,
prior to COVID. That the lower your vitamin D levels, the higher, I guess, your risk of flu, even in the winter months as well. So
yeah,
I saw that correlate. Were you going to say something?
yeah, absolutely. Because it affects also vitamin D is very important for the development and the protection of the lungs and the lung
Yes.
tissue. So and of course for the immune system as well. So vitamin D levels are low during the winter, and that's a strong reason. One of the strong reasons why you have flu, and of course depression too. They find out
Yes.
affective disorder is more rampant in the winter because
Yes.
that's connected to low vitamin D levels as well.
Mm-hmm. So we have a question here. I think it's and I'll try to see if we can answer it. Virginia Griffin had said, "What time should we take D3?"
Vitamin D3 is fat soluble, so it really doesn't matter what time. If you're talking about what time should you go out in the sun, the best times are between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. But you can take the supplement any time of the day.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ajibade. Thank you for coming to my show. Let me see. Okay, somebody has another question, and I think we may end it with this. She said, does that mean 5,000 units in the summer and 10,000 units in the winter applied to teens?
Applied to teens, yeah. Let's see now. Yeah, I would say if blacks specifically.
Okay.
Now for whites, and again, if you have access to getting testing done, then I would recommend that you do that as well, just so you can be pretty sure and see how it works.
Yes.
But like I operate where you don't have access to testing, so we found that this is safe.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Now I'm going to say thank you so much, Dr. Ajibade, for coming in. Sorry for the I guess interruptions with our technical difficulties. Definitely, we're going to have you back on board to discuss more when it comes to all things health. Do you have any parting words to tell the audience?
Well, thank you for having me, and Happy New Year, everyone. And yeah, just take your vitamin D. This applies to sickle cell disease as well. We found that it really helps. So if you have people who have sickle cell, especially young ones before the age of 10, vitamin D is super important. It can save you a lot of hurt for kids with sickle cell disease.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ajibade, for joining. And thank you guys for also joining. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We'll try to change it up next time. I just want to say before we end that, when we're talking about health, we also talk about the mind, and there is a health and mind connection, right? And so, since this is a Black women empowerment and we are Christian based, you always want to, a lot of times we want to think, okay, how does our body, our physical body, help with our mental body, our mental sense, and how does that help with the spirit? So I remember a verse that I read when I was reading the Bible. It's Proverbs 17:22. It says, "A joyful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit dries up the bones." And this shows you how you can tie. Like if you're not happy, if you're depressed, it's going to adversely affect your health. And so it's really important that as we talk about our physical sense, we also keep our mental sense in check. We also make sure that we are okay, we're not depressed, we're not anxious, because it affects our physical body. And so I just wanted to do a shout out on a book that I've been recently reading. And let me see if you guys see this. It is Why Most Christians and Others Are Not Happy. Very, very, very good book. I have put this book on the link. If you are wanting to see how can I be happy as a Christian, how can I be able to keep my mental state sane and ultimately make my overall health optimal, you want to read this book. It gives you tips, it gives you reasons why you may not be happy and how to be happy as a Christian. All right. Thank you guys again for coming on board. Next week is going to be medicine with the medicine for the people with Dr. Susan, and then I'll be back again. And again, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. We'll try to make sure it doesn't happen like that again. All right, tune in later, same time next week on Friday. Bye.